Alright, so looking at this first pack, this pack isn't amazing, to be honest with you. We've got some artifacts that are interesting. Our rare Inspiring Statuary. It's not particularly exciting or even playable in Limited. Constructed, it can do some pretty cool things. I like the Cogwork Assembler. It's not a card I would normally want to first pick, just a 3-mana 2/3, but later in the game it's a nice mana sink, and it allows us to stay open, so that's what I'm leaning towards. The Aether Herder, the Revolt, Grizzly Bear, they're fine, but this is a very weak pack. Not happy with it, so I'm just going to start with the Cogwork Assembler. And here, this is the rare here is basically the Threaten, which it also allows you to cast something with converted mana cost 2 or less. But to be honest, it's not that much better than Threaten itself, so not a card I'm really thinking about taking. I like the Lifecraft Cavalry, big green guy, can become a 6/6 Trampler for 5. I also like the Aeronaut Admiral, 4-mana 3-power flyer with a potential upside if you have vehicles is pretty nice. Once again, not an amazing pack. I was hoping for some clear signal here. We haven't gotten it, but I think I'm going to go with the Aeronaut. It looks like I think it's between the Aeronaut and the Cavalry. Lifecrafter's Gift is fine, but other than that, I'm just going to grab the Admiral here. So we've got one foot into white, but we're not locked by any means. So we could continue on, stay on course, and just take the 2-drop here. So I think that's definitely reasonable. Beyond that, we've got Mobile Garrison. It's a vehicle. It goes with our Admiral. Siege Modification is a powerful card, especially with vehicles. I actually kind of want to take the Siege Modification, even though it's probably not the most powerful card in the pack. If we end up with this vehicle theme deck, if you will, this could be really good. Sure, let's try the modification, see where it takes us. So we could actually, all right. So there's a couple of vehicles in this pack that are good with the modification. So I actually like the Consulate Dreadnought just with the modification. It's not a great card on its own. The Crusher is definitely the better of the two vehicles, but if you throw a Siege Modification on the Dreadnought, it's pretty insane. So I kind of want to try it. And wow, we actually picked up another modification here. So we can kind of just move towards this red-white vehicle theme deck, essentially. Even though these cards aren't like super high picks by themselves, they do work well together. So these modifications are uncommon. You're not going to see that many of them, so we've already seen 2. I think we definitely want this one. And now the pack is kind of drying up a little bit. So the Welder Automaton, it's a fine 2-drop. So I think we can take that. The Emerald Gear Smasher is okay. But yeah, we're kind of getting towards the stages where we're not really expecting to see a ton. And once again, a pretty weak pack here. Decommission is okay. So normally you want like one artifact or enchantment removal spell. If not main deck, then you can sideboard it. Because there definitely are some powerful artifacts. Like against our deck, for instance, we do not want to face off against a Decommission. We're not necessarily locked into red-white, though, but We haven't seen anything great in other colors either to make us want to switch out. So I'm just going to take the decommission. And now this actually is a pretty late Dawnfeather Eagle here. So I think we want to grab that. And we're kind of, yeah, we're kind of solidified into white. The modification is our only red card, the siege modification, so not necessarily red. This was the pack we opened. And I think I'm just going to grab the Aerial Herder because it's the best card. Just kind of, you know, fishing around, seeing what's going to be open, staying flexible with the green card, moving towards pack 2. The Salback is okay. And we're just kind of rounding out the pack with some sideboard potential cards like Natural Obsolence. Could potentially end up in our sideboard. There's another Salback. Precise Strike and the Implement are actually both playable here. I'm going to take the Strike and take into custody. So, alright, here is our second pack, and we've got an Aether Chaser, so that's good. That's a solid 2-drop that we may want to take here. Battle at the Bridge is definitely the best card in this pack, but it is a black card, and we have 0 black cards up to this point. I like the Chaser a lot. There's also a Dreadnought, which would fit well into our red and white theme of vehicles and modifications. So I like that idea. But I think there's actually a chance that the Dreadnought wheels, even though the pack isn't great. And we just kind of want the 2-drop. So I think we want to take the Aether Chaser here. And wow, here's a couple really nice cards here. This is the best pack we've seen by a mile leading up to this point. So there's a Quicksmith Rebel, which is just great. And so it's the best card in the pack, I think. We probably want to take it. Thopter Arrest and a Harpooner we would also be happy with. Also Chandra's Revolution. Just an amazing pack here. But I am going to take the Quicksmith Rebel. We've got some artifacts already. And just being able to start shocking things at will is pretty absurd. So I think we just grab the rare here. And it looks like we've sent pretty good signals. Just looking at this pack, seeing the Quicksmith Rebel, we're happy that this is in the pack. It likely means our opponent is not in red or white, considering these cards. So going to grab the Quicksmith Rebel. And now we're pretty solidly into red and white. I'm going to put these green cards in the sideboard at this point. Wrangle probably won't make the cut. So these are the cards that I would consider putting in our red-white deck. So we're just going to continue on this path. So we definitely want to have a significant amount of 2-drops in our deck. And so the Audacious Infiltrator is definitely an attractive option. I do like Renegade Map. I like the Implement. There are artifacts that would go with our Quicksmith Rebel. But I think we just want the 2-drop here. We can probably pick up some late artifacts if we want them. And there's some good cards in this pack as well. Let's see. Enraged Giant stands out as if we have an artifact or two. 5 mana, 4/4 trample haste, pretty good. Dawnfeather Eagle, also a good card. We already have one of those. Spire Patrol is very good, but we're unlikely to play blue. There's a Renegade Map, but I think we want to take the Enraged Giant, and we'll be very happy with it if we end up more artifact based. And we're definitely in red now. So the Reckless Racer is extremely powerful as well. Hopefully we get another vehicle or two. We definitely haven't seen many this pack, if any. So yeah, gonna take this. It works extremely well when you crew some things because you don't even have to attack with it in order to get that loot trigger. So this pack, not really a huge fan of for our deck. There's Gremlin Infestation, which is an artifact. It's good against an, if your opponent's got a lot of artifacts, but it's not normally a card that I'll put in my main deck. Aether Inspector is also just not an exciting 4-drop. Foundry Assembler. So yeah, I mean, let's see. I think we can take the Aether Inspector here. It's not what we wanted, and now we're frustrated. This is a frustrating pack. I'm gonna the Aether Swooper is definitely the best card in the pack. I'm gonna take it and be willing to switch colors if even though it's late in the game, it's still possible. But we've just been taking the best cards we've been seeing. I don't think we've done anything wrong. Here's an Ornithopter. That's potentially a modification target just to make it a 3/2 first striking Ornithopter. There's an Emerald Gearsmith. Another Saddleback, but we already have 2 of those. Another Decommission. Yeah, I guess just taking a second Decommission is fine here. Wow, this is a lot of Sailbacks. It seems like we're seeing very similar packs in each pack, just the same cards. But Alley Invasion is actually a fine combat trick, so I'm going to grab that. And wow, so the Harpooner actually tabled. Even though it's not great in our deck because we don't have implements to trigger Revolt, it's still a very powerful card. We can potentially leverage, and we can look for... And here's an Implement of Combustion, which is exactly what we wanted. So we're definitely happy with that. Wish we had some more vehicles. Just the Consulate Dreadnought as of right now. So if we see a vehicle in the next pack, definitely going to grab it. Frontline Rebel is a card I'm okay with playing. It's definitely a dangerous card to have in your deck. So we're looking for a strong pack 3. We got the Quicksmith Rebel early, which was, and the Aether Chase. We got a couple of 2-drops, which are very important. So okay, so looking at this pack to start off pack 3, we see a couple of strong multicolored spells. Dovin Cloud Blazer. Those are the best cards in the pack. But I don't think we're really in the business for splashing. We just want to have a solid curve. We're committed to red-white at this point. So we do have the Aether Swooper. So I mean, it's possible we could try to switch for a card like Cloud Blazer or Dovin. But there is an Iron League Steed, which is fine. Not amazing. But I think we should just stay on color here, even though it's pretty sad. Inspired Charge is also a good card. It could come back to us. I'm going to take the Iron League Steed. It's basically the discipline pick. It's not the exciting one there. But I think our deck, it's coming together. We need 1 or 2 2-drops to really make it classify it as a good deck. Right now, it's not quite good, but it's serviceable, and this is exactly what we wanted. So we see a ton of cards for our deck here. Brazen Scourge, we would be happy with it, but there's also a Fairgrounds Warden, and then Renegade Freighter. Freighter's just an absurd Magic card. We needed another vehicle to go with our 2 sieges. The Freighter fits the bill perfectly. So I'm definitely going to take Renegade Freighter. No questions about that. And so I think this pack of Kaladesh is exactly what we were looking for. Here's a Servo Exhibition. So this creates artifacts. It's a 2-drop. It can help us curve into our Enraged Giant nicely. So I think it's a solid pickup. And here's another vehicle. Here's a Sky Skiff. So there's also a Wisp-Weaver Angel, Chandra's Pyrohelix, but we really want to be able to curve out. And so the Skiff allows us to do that. If we had more Revolt enablers, the Wisp-Weaver Giant, it's a very powerful card. Glintsleeve Artisan is a good 3-drop, but we've already got a decent amount of 3s, so I'm going to grab the Skiff here. And we're just... This is exactly what we wanted from our third pack. There's an Inventor's Apprentice and the Glintsleeve Artisan. Those are the 2 cards I'm considering. I do like Inventor's Apprentice. We've got some artifacts we can play on turn 2, so I'm going to grab that and just try to be as aggressive as possible. Thriving Ibex it's fine as a 4-drop. I'm going to take it. It may or may not make the cut. And here's another Ibex or Herald of the Fair. Neither are amazing. I'm going to go with the Ibex here. And okay, so this pack, there's a few different cards we're interested in. Consul's Shield Guard, Built to Last, and Eddie Tailhawk. I actually am not a huge fan of the Shield Guard, even though it looks powerful on the surface. So between the Built to Last and the Hawk, we've got a couple of combat tricks already. So yeah, I'm just going to go with the Eddie Tailhawk. And now we've definitely got enough 2-drops. The Inspired Charge did table. We're definitely going to take that and just kind of fill out the pack here with some cards that are probably going to end up in the sideboard, but we're just going to take anything we see in our colors. We ended up with a solid red-white deck, and we're going to go ahead and build that now. All right, so looking here, these are the cards we drafted. The cards that... I'm just going to put some more cards in the sideboard so we can try to come up with exactly the configuration that's going to be best. So Demolish, not a main deck card. Refurbish, not something we want. So we've actually got 31 cards here. We need to significantly trim this down, even though we may not play too many lands. I'm not a huge fan of the sailback, so I'm just going to completely cut those. I'm going to cut the Aether Inspector as well. So let's see. We've got a glut of 3-drops. I think the worst one is the Herald of the Fair. So we got 16 creatures. I'm going to kind of put the spells off to the side here so we can look at spells versus creatures. So we've got the Inspired Charge as a potential way to go wide if we want to. It's not clear that we actually do want to, though, in this deck. Even though a lot of red-white decks do, a card like Servo Exhibition is nice to go wide, but if we're more vehicles-oriented, we don't necessarily want to be going wide, or we may not be able to. So I actually am going to cut the Inspired Charge from the deck, even though that may be an unpopular choice. I do think it's correct here. I like the Frontline Rebel because it can, if your opponent's got a big board, you can always use it to crew a vehicle, and we've got 3 vehicles: the Dreadnought, the Skiff, and the Freighter. So I'm going to put the Servo Exhibition over here because it is basically a 2-drop, even though it's a spell, it creates creatures. And so I'm going to put all of our vehicles here, the Dreadnought, the Skiff, and the Freighter. They're not actual creatures, but they do become creatures, which is nice. So we can actually potentially play a 15-land deck, which a lot of people play 17 or even 16, but I'm actually an advocate for playing very a low curve and then less lands. And so when you look at the top of our curve, we've got 2 5-drops and then the Enraged Giant, which is kind of like between a 4 and a 5-drop. And so I think it's between 15 and 16 lands. And that may raise some eyebrows, but I actually do agree that this is a low land count format. And I like having less lands in my deck. So I think that we want to cut potentially either the Decommission or the Maneuver. So the Decommission, it's nice, but it is a reactive spell. The Maneuver, we can do some pretty cool things with it, like blinking a Harpooner and then shooting something down when it comes back into play, or just blinking one of our energy enablers. But I think we're fine with cutting the Maneuver, potentially boarding it in, especially if we see. Well, I don't even know if we want to cut the Maneuver, but let's consider it. It's on the chopping block. I'm gonna put it over here as one of the cards we might want to cut. Thriving Ivex. We've got 2. We could cut 1. They're not that exciting. So yeah, I think I do like the idea of cutting an Ivex. Welder Automaton is also consideration for getting cut. But I'm going to cut an Ibex here. And I think the Maneuver, and then we can board it in if we want it. So we are playing, as of right now, 15 lands. I said it was between 15 and 16. I could see playing 16. And the reason to play 16 would just be to have 8 sources of each color. So if we do that, I think we cut the Decommission. And I think it's between, I could see arguments for either, but this is what I'm going to start with. And it's just a deck with a good curve. The creatures aren't amazing, but the vehicles are really good. The modifications are exactly what we want. We can throw them on a vehicle or throw them on, whatever creature, and it forces our opponent at that point to have removal. I like where we're at, so I am gonna start with this, and then we can always sideboard into a little bit of a different configuration if we want to.